everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. And welcome to episode number 124. Pretty impressive. Thank you, everyone, for listening in, and thank you, everyone, for sharing it and spreading it around. We're in over 71 countries right now, which is pretty impressive. So thank you, everyone, for telling your friends and sharing the podcast and sharing it online and spreading the word about what we're doing here. And today, as part of our season 2, and as I remind everyone, we're now doing just straight up record release. We literally record the episodes, release them within 24 hours, no wait, so they go right out. So today we have back on Spencer McDonald of Spencer's Beef Jerky. How are you doing?
Doing good. Excited to be back on. I didn't realize you're up to that many episodes now. I think you're only at maybe 40 something.
Yeah.
Last time I was on, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and actually, I want to make sure I correct myself. It's actually Spencer's Jerkin Jerky. I said Spencer's Beef Jerky, and you're from Ashburn, Virginia. So, how have you been?
I've been good. Very, very busy. A lot more going on. A lot of the things that we talked about last time, and then I've been working on some new things too. So it's definitely been busy, but in a good way.
So one of the things, Spencer, that I love is your business model. And we talked about it a little bit on the last podcast, but before we get into it, I sort of want you to take the time to tell everyone how they can find you online and on social media, and then from there just go into sort of, the brief version of your business and how you developed your business model.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on, I wouldn't say every platform. I feel like new platforms pop up every day, but you can find me on most of the major platforms. You can find me on Facebook if you just look up Spencer's Jerky. I'm on Twitter under Jerkin Jerky. And then my website is spencersjerkinjerky.com. And that's with no G on the Jerkin, just Jerkin, Jerky. You can find me in all those places. Ordering off my website is the easiest way, but there's links from Facebook and Instagram to make your purchases as well. But yeah, that's the easiest way to find me. As far as the business model, to kind of go back over that again, really what I strive for and what I kind of pride myself in is not only making, delicious beef jerky, but really trying to make the freshest beef jerky on the market. And the way that I do that is by following a model that is made to order. So what that entails is as soon as a purchase actually comes in through my website, that's actually when I go to the butcher to source out the steak for your specific order. So I don't have any freezers at home. I don't keep anything frozen. I literally go to the butcher fresh and get them to slice the steak for your order. When I bring it home, I also make every marinade fresh for all my flavors. So I have 5 flavors. I got my original, my Old Bay, my lemon pepper, my mandarin jalapeno, and then my habanero bourbon. So I make every one of those marinades fresh for your order as well. And then it's marinated for 24 hours before I actually, dehydrate the steak and make it into the beef jerky. So what all that means is you literally place an order on my website, say on a Monday, and usually within a week's time, you have jerky at your door that literally came fresh from the butcher,
Yeah, I think that's one of the coolest things. And I mean, it's obviously something as you're building your business, but I love the business model. You're not sitting on inventory. You're not sitting on money invested in a product and it's just sitting there and worried about what its shelf life is going to be and everything else. It's literally ordered. It's as fresh as it can get. The marinade's made. You obviously portion the marinade based on how many orders come in or, what those orders are. And then it's straight to the consumer. I mean, there's no middlemen or anything like that. You literally drop it in the mail, which you show on your Instagram, which is where I follow you, all the time in the orders that come in. And one of the other cool things that I like what you do is you sort of announce when you hit new states, which is kind of crazy. And
yeah, I think last time I was on, I think we were at 25 out of the 50 states. I should have done the math again before recording this, but I think if I'm not mistaken, we're at 19 left now. So we're slowly getting there. We've definitely hit both coasts first. I'm from the East Coast. We hit the East Coast pretty hard first, and then the West Coast, and then now we're starting to fill in the middle, time over time, which is pretty great.
So, did you say you had 19 more?
Yeah, I think we got 19 left to try to hit, and my goal
left.
that I'm setting for myself, is to hit the last 19 before February. February will be my 2 years in business. So I want to try to hit all 50 in the first 2 years.
And one of the things, Spencer, is that many people, like, I really think it's important because you're really at the beginning stage of building your business and you're not taking on too much and you're building it the right way using the free resources or resources that are out there through social media and building your product. You're not jumping right in, let's do this, let's build this model, let's overcommit ourselves and burn out, because all the businesses that I know or I've been involved in, it's a slow build before you ever have any what I'll call huge financial success. And so I like that you're doing it. I mean, but your persistency and your dedication to continue with social media and make sure you post things. I mean, tell me a little bit about that, how you find the motivation every day to make sure you keep up with what you're doing right now. Because, you know, it isn't like, okay, I'm going to open up my own manufacturer, I'm going to do this or co-pack or go to a supermarket. You're literally building this from the ground up day by day.
Yeah, you know, some days are definitely easier to find motivation than others. I think I talked about it a little bit last time. Every once in a while, there'll be a lull where I'll go, you know, a couple of days where it seems like I'm not getting orders. And I'm like, well, you know, what's going on here? Why is it not, you know, maintaining the pace that, you know, it may have been last week? But then I have weeks like this past week where currently I'm sitting on, I have 19 orders to fulfill at home over the weekend. So, you know, that's kind of the motivation is, you know, when I see those spikes and it happens that way, and then I see people posting about it when they receive it. Customer feedback is definitely, you know, very important to me. That's definitely probably the main motivator for me is just seeing people actually receive it and post pictures themselves, you know, without me asking for them or them sending me stuff when they're on vacation, they took it on a road trip. Those kinds of things definitely, you know, really keep me motivated. And especially since last time we talked, it's really gone well beyond, you know, the friends and family and stuff like that, which, you know, it was at that point last time, but now even more so. You know, I have people ordering from like New Mexico who I've, you know, never met, never heard of. I've never been to New Mexico. So just seeing it expand like that and just getting, you know, honest feedback from people who, you know, have no real reason to be anything other than honest with me. And, you know, them giving me, you know, positive criticism on my product, you know, definitely motivates me every day.
Well, and we talked a lot about last time how you were going to like microbreweries and doing like, you know, combination flavors and marinades and stuff for them. Is that something you're still doing?
You know, it's not something that I've necessarily intentionally stopped doing. But, you know, to kind of backtrack to last episode again, too, you know, I still am working, you know, a full-time office job, which takes up quite a bit of my time. So I haven't had as much time as I'd like on the weekends to really get out to, you know, the breweries and stuff like that. I still have stopped by a couple of breweries recently. I haven't done a flavor with, you know, the beer infused probably since last time we talked. It's something that I think I talked about last time where some breweries, you know, the ones that I've done it for, they see it and they see the reaction from their consumer base and they realize that it's a great way to market their beer for free. And the people really love to order the beer and try the jerky that pairs with it. But I'm still having people that in a lot of breweries that don't really understand the proof of concept or they don't believe in it because they already have jerky vendors that they're loyal to. But what those jerky companies do is send them a box. They put the jerky on the shelf in the corner of the brewery, and there's no story behind it. There's no, you know, flashy label. There's nobody there to really talk to them about it and let them know, you know, what the product is. So even if the jerky is delicious, even if it does taste, you know, maybe as good as mine, there's no story behind it. So it just kind of sits there. So they don't really see the value in the product, where when I go to a brewery and set up a table, you know, I might sell 25, 30 pounds of beef jerky in an afternoon. So it's kind of that struggle of getting these other breweries to really see the proof of concept and understand how well it's worked for the breweries I have done it for. So I've kind of curbed that a little bit. And what I started doing is focusing a little bit more online. So I started doing a new flavor pretty much every month, probably for the past 4 or 5 months. And then what I'll do is I'll only make that flavor for that month. So I did a Cajun flavor for a month. I did a honey barbecue flavor for a month using my buddy's homemade barbecue sauce. I did a pineapple teriyaki for a month. And what I've also noticed is a lot of repeat customers will want to try that new flavor, but then they'll stick to their usual order and they'll get their other flavor too. So in a lot of ways, I'm getting twice the size of an order from these customers who might have ordered 1 pound of jerky. Now they're ordering 2 pounds of jerky because they want to try the new thing and then they want to stick with what they know they love already.
I really like that. And I mean, based on that, how do you come up with your new flavors every month?
A lot of times I ask friends, I ask people, at the bars on the weekend. If I'm sitting there, I'll be like, hey, well, what kind of jerky would you like to try? My last one that I did was the Cajun flavor. I had a roommate who grew up in Louisiana, and that's pretty popular down there. So that's kind of why I went with that one. The teriyaki, I had a lot of people who wanted something maybe not as spicy, and most of my flavors do have quite a kick to them. So I was like, let me make something a little bit more on the mild side. But yeah, it's a lot of just brainstorming. I'll look at different recipes online. Something that I always strive for is I don't like, adding sugars and all these other non-natural things to my flavors, because at the end of the day, beef jerky should just be steak. So, I treat it as such. So I look at different steak marinades that I would probably eat if I was barbecuing, and then I try to apply that to my beef jerky.
Yeah, and I think that's important is there is, and I've talked about this on a different beef jerky interviews we had on the podcast, but it's keeping it as natural and as little sugar and salt as possible. Well, as you can, because you're right, it is about the meat. It's not, the marinade gives it a good flavor, but I feel like you want it to be, healthy in the ways that can be, since the trends are going that way. And beef jerky is a great snack. I mean, it's easy to carry. It's light. If you're hiking, if you're exercising, if you're on the road, as much as I am, it's easy to throw in your backpack, take with you through an airport or on a plane, and not have to spend a fortune. You can just buy it there. And obviously the stuff at the airport's usually not the healthiest, so there's that as well. So I love what you're doing. And for the audience, if you want to hear Spencer's first episode, it's episode 65. It was released June 14th of this year, 2019. So you can go back and listen to that as well if you want a deeper background on what Spencer's doing. But I want to get into sort of what you do on social media, because, I mean, I've watched your social media account now over the last, I think it's been 8 months since we started talking to do the first podcast, and I've watched your numbers climb slowly. And it's not this giant leaps and bounds, but it's sort of inching its way up there. I mean, tell me a little bit about your strategy when it comes to social media.
Yeah, so I try to make a conscious effort to really, post as often as possible without, overdoing it. I don't want people to necessarily feel harassed and feel like the only thing they see on their feed is me posting, 10 times in a row, right? But at the same time, that's also where I feel like I get a lot of my purchases. I could sit there all morning and not have any purchases, and then, right around rush hour, I'll start, putting some posts on there, whether it's on my main page itself on Instagram or through, the Instagram stories. And most of the time, once I'm done posting, that's when a couple orders come in. So, I try to target certain times of the day. Instagram's pretty good with analytics and seeing when the best time to post is. So I take a look at that. I honestly don't really ever spend any money on the sponsored ads unless I'm doing an event at those breweries like we touched on. I will, throw, $5, $20 on one of those and target, the local area to let people know that I'll be at a brewery that's having live music, that's having a beer release, and that I'll be there with this jerky. And people will come in and say that they saw the ad on Instagram and that's why they're there. So I know that there's traction with those, but other than that, I really haven't shelled out money as far as Instagram, Facebook ads, just to market the product itself. I tried to, grow it as organically as possible. Now I will say though, just starting last week, maybe a month ago, actually, I started kind of gravitating a little bit more towards Twitter and seeing what kind of traction, I could make there. And it started with one of my buddies who has a podcast that's for University of Virginia sports. So he was just starting that out. So I was like, hey, well, why don't we help each other out? I'll sponsor, your podcast, and then, that'll get you some followers from, me, and then vice versa. Some of your followers will probably check me out. So I started doing that. And then I also just started sponsoring the number one rated Florida Gators podcast. I'm from Orlando originally, so I've been a Gators fan my whole life. So I actually started sponsoring with them a little bit. I just did one of their pop-up shows, and I threw a couple dollars at it, and that's come back 4 or 5 times sold already. And that was just from Friday till today. That's kind of where all those 19, 20 orders came from. So that's something I've kind of gravitated towards on social media a little bit more, is Twitter. I feel like stuff can get reposted, retweeted there a lot quicker. And a lot of these podcasts, there's just a lot of fans out there. And that's actually where I got a lot of the states checked off on that mark too. I was at like 22 or 23 states just a couple days ago. So that's really kind of helped, gravitate a whole new audience, a whole new group of people that I wasn't really catching on Instagram.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, Deborah and I were at the LSU Florida Gators game in Louisiana. I think it's been 2 weeks ago now. So that was pretty fun. Quite an environment, college football. Went to small college, and Deborah went to CU, which has pretty good football culture, but nothing compared to the Gators or LSU for that matter. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was at last year's game, which I liked a little bit better than this year's game. But
no, the Gators didn't do too well. Although it was a great game. I mean, they were going head-to-head, tied almost the whole game, which was pretty awesome.
It was definitely a great game. I prefer a different outcome, but the game itself was great to watch.
Yeah, there you go. But all right. So let's talk about something else. I've noticed that you've started. Online you have the beef jerky and stuff like that, but you've now started experimenting with other meats, or maybe it's something you've always done, but I caught an Instagram post the other day that you were actually going to do turkey jerky. I think it was turkey.
Yeah. So that kind of all ties back into what we were just talking about. So let me backtrack. Before I actually sponsored an episode of that podcast, which is it's actually called Stadium and Gale, before I actually decided to sponsor an episode with them, I had already been talking to some of the guys from the show, and then they're also part of like a bigger network that's called the Big Three Roll-Up, which for those of you guys who don't watch college football and is familiar with Florida, the Big Three is Miami, Florida, and then Florida State. So they have fans and different people from all different of those teams, and they kind of all get together, and they all have separate podcasts, and they get together and do one main one. So what I had done was I just sent them down, some smaller packages just to try out. And they took it with them on some of their live streams. They went to SeaWorld. They brought some with them. And they all tried it, and they all loved it. So then one of the guys doesn't actually eat beef. He doesn't eat red meat. So he asked if, I would make a turkey option. So I said, I can definitely try to make that for you. I was like, don't hold it against me if it's not great. But, if you want to be one of my taste testers, I can definitely do that. So I agreed to do that for him. Life got in the way a little bit. It can take me a little while to, find the right turkey and really, get it down. And then when I sponsored the episode, they announced on the podcast that I sold turkey jerky. So what I decided to do at that point was kind of do a trial run, if you will, of the flavor. So I asked the guy, what flavor of my flavors would you like? He picked out mandarin jalapeno, which is a twist on like an orange chicken recipe from a Chinese restaurant. So it should go pretty good with the poultry. But I decided to do a trial run. And what I did is I opened up 25 spots in my inventory on my website, and I put up the turkey jerky for free. And I basically said, hey, if you guys go online, go to my website, order this, you only have to pay shipping, and I'm going to send out the turkey jerky. I just asked you tell me what you think of it. What would you change? What's your opinions on it? And that's going to kind of be where I decide if it's something I want to roll with, or if to go back to the drawing board and try something else. So I'm marinating it right now. I'm going to cook it all this weekend and ship it all out on Monday. But I got about 25 different batches of turkey jerky going out to customers this week.
And so, that's a great idea, is why not let the consumers who are already your loyal fans get the free product and taste it, versus going out there with people who aren't your customers and having them try your new flavors. I mean, it's a great way to, one, reward your existing customers, and two, it's a great way to get them, the people that are already eating it, to test it. I mean, who's going to be more honest with you? I would say probably your current fans. One, because they're already loyal, and number two, they get to participate in the business and have ownership and be a stakeholder in any new flavors that come out. I think that's amazing. I really like that concept, actually. I'm surprised more people don't do it. Everyone does these blind taste tests at random rooms and goes to a random grocery store, but in a way, you're giving it to your existing clientele, which I think is really cool.
Exactly, yeah, and that kind of ties in. One of the other ways I market it nowadays is whenever I'm cooking all of these different batches, I always make a little bit extra, and then usually a strip of my beef jerky is probably usually like 5 or 6 inches long by 2 or 3 inches wide. It's a nice strip of steak. But what I'll do is I'll take a knife and I'll slice it into thin little pieces, and then whenever I go out for the weekend, whether I'm going down to DC or if I'm just going to like a local bar or something like that, I'll bring the jerky with me. And then when it comes up in conversation, I'll let people try it there. And that's the way that I catch a lot of new people and face to face and let them try it. And that usually goes over pretty well too.
That's and I love that. And I'm going to also talk about, how did you choose Shopify as your website? I mean, I use it in anything that I've ever done. We tend to migrate towards it, but I like the platform. I mean, what are your thoughts about it and feedback? Because I think a lot of people out there are looking for where to put an online store.
Yeah, I initially wasn't on Shopify for probably the first month, 2 months, maybe tops. And the website was just kind of it was just kind of there. It was there, but it didn't really seem like it was getting traffic. I was still getting most of my orders, through, people messaging me and, paying other ways, whether it was, using PayPal or Venmo or, using my card reader in person. But then when I switched over to Shopify, and part of the reason why I did was just, it's really user friendly. I mean, I've always been kind of a computer guy, but I feel like, you don't have to know all that much to really use it, but it just integrates really well with everything else. So, what really started driving sales there, and they're great with analytics too. If you go on Shopify, you can pretty much break down anything you can imagine with your traffic and your orders. But it was the ability to have these stores on the other platforms linked to my Shopify. So it allows you to have a shop on Instagram, it allows you to have a shop on Facebook, and it allows you to track if that's where the purchases are coming from, which is kind of cool. And then even for the merchandise and stuff that I have on my website. They have apps almost like on your phone where you can add on. So I use a company called Printify that makes all of my, merchandise, and it allows it just to seamlessly, connect with Shopify so that it's all on the same platform. I had an Etsy at first for merchandise, which I had to pay for extra, per product, per quarter or something like that. And, I didn't like having people go to 2 different places, where now you can go on and you can order a t-shirt, and you can order a pound of beef jerky from the same place at the same time, one transaction. I feel like it's just a really easy, user-friendly platform to use.
I agree with you, and I think it's just all the shipping that's integrated and all of that stuff. I don't know if that's how you do your shipping, but it all integrates in so well that you don't have to go through different channels and things like that, and things integrate in really well. Actually, I've just been recently disappointed that they stopped connecting with MailChimp for marketing through email and direct to consumers through the mailbox. But I guess it's one of those things. They're just in a tug of war.
That is a good point you brought up too, which I forgot to mention. Shopify does partner with all the different shipping companies, whether it's UPS, USPS, FedEx, and gives you an automatic discount at the lowest price. So yeah, I use them for all my shipping. I can really click on the order, buy label, print label, right there. The packing slip comes right from there. And then I also forgot to mention the other thing that was nice is they sent me a chip reader for free for when I go to the breweries. And what's nice about that is I used to have my website, reports, for tax purposes. And I also had my Square reports, and I kind of had to like do the math, figure out, how much I actually sell, where now that I use my Shopify card reader, it all registers at the same place. It shows that it was an in-person transaction, but it allows me to track my sales and everything like that all on one place. I don't have to go to multiple websites, remember multiple passwords or, anything like that, which is nice.
Yeah, I love that about it. It makes it so much easier to do and track it and go integrate right into an accounting system and things like that. So Spencer, one of the things we're doing on this next season is I want to sort of talk about and ask people this question. And the question is, what do you think are the core values of a leader or leadership? Being that you've been in an entrepreneur now, and as your business grow, what are the core things that you think that a leader or you as a leader need to have in order to grow your business?
Sure. So, I mean, the cool thing, at least at this point now, is I only have to be my own boss, and that's a good and bad thing, because I'm probably harder on myself than I would be on somebody else, which is good for my business, but maybe not the best for my own well-being from time to time. But I mean, accountability is always huge. Just you need to admit your own mistakes and move forward from them and find a way to fix them. I work in management for my full-time job, and something that I always let people know, and something that's always a main thing that I push whenever somebody new joins my team is like, hey, like, listen, I understand, with a job, with a company, everything's not always going to be perfect. There's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days, kind of like you talked about, what motivates me to go day by day. But the main thing is, if you're going to bring something up that you don't agree with, something that, doesn't mesh well with you, you need to bring a solution. I don't have time to listen to, complaints or negativity if it's not paired with how we can fix it, or like what's wrong with it and why we should fix it, kind of thing is something that's always really important to me. Because otherwise you're just dwelling, you're bringing negativity, you're going to bring other people down. That can bring down the morale of everybody. So, those two things are definitely the main ones. And then just having fun, that's part of the reason why I think the brewery thing has always been, a big focal point of my business model, even if it hasn't been as much lately, is getting out there, being in public, having a few beers with new customers, old customers, and just having a good time with it. It kind of helps pair with, the monotony of, cleaning every day, which we talked about in the last episode. My least favorite part is, when I have to clean and do inventory and stuff like that, like not inventory of the jerky, obviously, but all my spices, all my sauces, things like that.
So, I mean, one of the cool things that I think that you're getting to experience is literally you're having to manage it all yourself within that. So as you grow it or move the company into a leadership or grow it, you're the one with the boots on the ground every day that knows what your process is, what the customers want. You're having to deal with them. You're out there in the brewery selling it. I mean, so I want to sort of talk about that a little bit amongst the leadership aspect, which is how amongst that do you feel that it translates sort of into your customer service?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a huge thing that I think as the company grows and as I do bring on employees and stuff like that, that's definitely going to be a big tool and a big way to help me motivate them and realize that, I understand what they're going through. If they're, having daily struggles, things like that, I can relate it back to, to my day job, right? So, like I said, I work in management full time. However, I started at this company that I work for as an entry-level employee. So, like you said, I've had my boots on the ground. I've done pretty much every job you can do here up until I got to this point. So when my employees are struggling with something, I can relate it back to, real world experience at this current job that I've done. Like, it's not like, hey, I used to also work at, XYZ as a kid and I can kind of relate to what you're going through. No, I literally have done the exact job you're doing. And, I had this exact experience and here's how I got through it. Here's how I kept myself motivated. Here's how I, started, tomorrow better than today ended, that kind of thing.
So Spencer, let's go through, I want to back up a second because you talked about the different flavors every month. let's talk about the last few months, what those flavors have been, and how do you decide whether or not those flavors stay on there or not? And I know I'm jumping around, but this question that's in my head is if a flavor's good enough on this random month, do you keep it around or you make sure they're only limited time?
Yeah, so, I only do them for a limited time. The reason why I do that, to be 100% honest, kind of relates back to what we've been talking about where, it is only me, right? And being that I have those 5 flavors that I, make anytime you can order, I still do from time to time get people who say, I want to try all 5 flavors, and they order all 5 flavors. If I had, 10 flavors and that started happening, I really probably wouldn't have the time or the resources to really make that order happen as fast as, I would like, for my own standards. So that's kind of why I, only do it for that given month. That's the business reason. The other reason really honestly too, is it does drive some urgency when they see like, oh, that's a new flavor for the month. And, it's the 28th. There's only a couple more days till I can order this and then it's going to be gone kind of thing. So those are part of the reasons why I don't, keep them going, month after month. But I also, I will have people reach out to me from time to time. I'll be completely transparent and honest. I have people reach out to me and they say, hey, I really want to try, that barbecue flavor you had a couple months ago. And I'll still make it for them. It's just, I need that person to message me to kind of request it on the side. And, I'll still get it done for them. I just don't market it or have it readily available so somebody can't order, 10 pounds of it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, understood. And so what's your, any ideas what your flavor is going to be for November?
Yeah, so I just have been super busy this month. So I didn't actually roll one out for this month yet. So I think I will do one for November. I'm thinking about, I already actually have the graphics and stuff done for it. So I'm thinking about doing a chili lime flavor. And honestly, there's not like a really long-winded or exciting story. I honestly was out buying some spices that I needed, and I saw a chili lime spice on the rack, and I was like, you know what? That could be the next flavor. So I haven't done the full recipe yet for what it's going to include. But yeah, that's a sneak peek into what I'm going to make for November.
That's pretty fun. I like that. I was thinking maybe it was going to be something like a turkey cranberry marinated jerky, which I don't know if it would work, but in my head it sounded like a great idea. But I get it though, because some things are never going to work with jerky, and I don't understand it. It's not something that I do. I certainly enjoy it, but how you guys make sure the flavors work right and the experiment, and it's a lot of, I assume, trial and error and getting people to taste it, which is a whole other, dynamic.
Yeah, what I do when I make a new flavor is I honestly bring it to the local bar and I let all the bartenders try it. And that's honestly where I get my taste tests done for a brand new flavor. I say, hey, here's the new one. I usually make at least a pound of it sometimes before I even market it at all. I'll make a pound of it and I'll bring it there and be like, what do you guys think it needs? What's perfect about it? What would you change if you could change something? And if I hear, the same thing from 3 or 4 different people, I'm like, all right, well, obviously you probably should change that. And, maybe it needs a little bit more heat, things like that. And I'll go home and tweak it and I'll bring it back to them and be like, what do you think now? And they're like, all right, this one's good. And then I'll go ahead and start, actually shipping it out to customers.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So lastly, before I let you off, is there anything that you want to share with the audience before we sort of bring this to a closing?
I guess the main thing I would say is I'm definitely check me out on Instagram. Definitely look me up under Spencer's Jerky. What I was thinking about doing shortly, and I've tossed around the idea, I just haven't got around to it, is I'm going to repost my map of all the states I've hit. And what I'm thinking about doing is providing some kind of deal or some kind of promotion to any of those states that you don't see filled in. So, for example, I've got the whole entire East Coast covered except the state of Maine. So I'm thinking about doing a deal, if you're from Maine, if you're from, It's another state I haven't hit. Tennessee, if you're from these states, maybe I'll give them some kind of deal, whether it's like buy one, get one free or something, just to give them a chance to try it. But then, also help me out by checking that state off my list so I can reach that, that goal by February. Speaking of promotions, though, I did actually yesterday or the day before, I've been so busy, I forget. I did go in and create a promo code for anybody who's actually listening to your podcast. So if they go to Spencer'sJerkinJerky.com, it's Jerkin, just Jerkin with no G.com. If they actually just type in food, FOOD, it's going to take 10% off their order. I figured I would just use food to make it easy. I know a lot of people probably can't spell entrepreneur off the top of their heads. So,
no. I misspelled it the first time I wrote the podcast. Yeah.
I almost made it that, and I was like, let me just make this easier, make it food. But yeah, if you type in food, it's going to take 10% off your order. I don't think we touched on this episode. We talked a lot about the, within the states, but, I do ship worldwide. I've shipped it to Kuwait. I've shipped it to the Virgin Islands. I've hit Canada, actually, since our last podcast. So, I'm trying to send it everywhere, not just the 50 states, any of those countries that you mentioned, which I saw a lot of traffic from random countries when I was on your episode last. So, if they want to order, that's the easiest way for them.
Yeah, I love that. And so, let's get international with it. Why not? Let's pick off a few countries. So anyone that's in any other country other than the United States, order some jerky. Let's get the numbers up and use the food code. That's FOOD. And if you don't mind, Spencer, I'll do something today or over this weekend to help promote that and let people know they can go there over our social media channels so they can get that discount as well. And did you say it was 10%?
Yeah, 10% off. And then something that just popped in my head, too, in regards to that, we're talking about shipping it further, shipping it to other countries. We spent a lot of time on the last podcast and this podcast, too, talking about, my business model and how I, strive to make it, the freshest beef jerky on the market, which, I think, I think it probably is. I don't think anyone can really claim that it's fresher than mine. But for those who don't know, maybe beef jerky is not as popular where you're from, or it's not something that you've really taken the time to enjoy growing up. Even though I strive to make it the freshest ever, the stuff can last pretty much forever. I vacuum seal everything. I've eaten it 6 months later, and it still, had some moisture to it. It still tasted fresh like I made it the day before. So I think that's something that people may not know, and I wanted to mention is, I could ship it to you anywhere, and, you can let it sit on the shelf for months after months, and you can still enjoy it, and it's going to be completely fine for you.
Yeah, I think the vacuum sealing is a huge thing. The shelf life it gives is just incredible. So I think that's pretty important. Did I lose you there for a second?
No, I'm still here.
Okay, yeah, I think the shelf life and the way you do that, and actually your product is just a great display of building from the ground up and figuring out the right ways to do things now before, you get bigger, and you're working through a lot of things. And those are the type of experiences where if you jump too far ahead, you don't get them as a business owner or as an entrepreneur. And I feel like you're working your way through it. And I love the idea of giving it away for free online so your existing clientele can test the products. I really love that concept. They have to pay for shipping, but why not have the existing people who already like your flavors test the ones and be rewarded for being clients? I do really like the trying to promote into every state. I like those little kind of goals, as well as now let's branch out into every country we can with the beef jerky. I like the goals there and the marketing and the competitiveness in a way that happens by doing that. So, I want to be the first person in, Brazil to have Spencer's beef jerky, and it creates this, competitive thing that sort of goes on, which I really like that I think it's a great idea. So, Spencer, thank you so much for coming on the podcast again. I'd really actually love to do maybe another episode over the holidays and get really into depth over your monthly jerkies that you've done. So it gives you time to reflect on, your monthly specials and what's to come and help promote that. But I really want to dive into sort of the mad science around developing recipes and these different beef jerkies, because you're always doing it. So I really just think it's such a cool and interesting thing, and it really lets the audience and hopefully future customers of yours, get a little more personal with you.
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely would love to come on again. It's always a good time, and yeah, we can definitely dive in a little bit deeper into the different flavors and kind of what goes into that process. I definitely have time over the holidays to talk more about that for sure.
Awesome. So thank you again, and thank you everyone for listening in. You can find Spencer on Instagram, spencersjerkinjerky.com online, and and you can find me at Justin and the Food Entrepreneurs on both Facebook and Instagram, and you can email me, justin@thefoodentrepreneurs.com. Thank you everyone for listening in, and have a great day.